I want you to pretend you're a Brevard resident and I'm a candidate for a county commissioner and I want to call you.
Well, for a developer and a builder, the sooner they can get a project built and developed, is the sooner they can get money back in their pocket, right? So that's a market force. So the Lagoon half-cent sales tax has been in place for 8 years. And the proof is in the pudding, as they say. The water is clearer.
I think it also belittles the human's ability to research, study, and be nuanced in their candidates, right?
Yeah. I think when you put in good work, man, and when people know you, people know your heart, I think that can really change the way somebody views you.
Vinny, we're already rolling. Vinny and I are knee deep in talks about.
Oh man, let's go.
Talks about the world, the political world. Vinny, I'll try. I can't do an introduction for you. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do this, because I wanted to get to know you.
Yeah, man.
I've met you a couple times, but high level.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about you. What's going on with you right now? Why do I see your name all over Brevard County right now? Everywhere I go, I see Vinny.
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
Yeah. Well, so like you said, my name is Vinnie Taranto. I'm a junior. My dad's the original, the OG Vinny, as we like to say. But Vinnie Taranto, born and raised here. And the reason you see my name all over the community is because those are my promises to my community that I will serve them from the community. So I'm running for County Commissioner District 5.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's
104,000 people.
So
voters.
You saw me. I went to the chamber kind of political hobnob, I think they called it.
Yes.
And we're like deep in the woods here in Florida. This is like a very local podcast. Like but that's what this is about right now. We're at the political hobnob.
It starts.
Yeah, and the thing that I was most curious about the hobnob, I was like, what's the most controversial and biggest position here? And they said county commission.
Yeah, in the county, yeah. So you've got your cities, your local government. You even got even lower. We were talking HOAs, you know. There's so many different levels of government, but the county is really the in-between between the cities and the states. Yeah. There's a lot of in-between that goes on, and the cities can speak directly to the state, and they do, but a lot of this stuff comes through the county.
So I'm gonna try to get a little more comfortable here, because me and Vinny are get to know each other.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm curious to know. Everyone's got a high level real quick, and that's kind of what we're here about. But before I even start there, like, tell me about you. Yeah. Like, where are you from? Yeah. How did you get to this point? Yeah. Like, tell me a little bit about your story and about you.
I will. Yeah, I was born and raised here in Indialantic. And as you can see, and most people do, the first thing they see about me is I'm damn handsome. No, I mean, I am that too, but I also have a physical disability. It's how I was born. To me right now, it's my greatest trait. My whole life, I've had to learn how to do things differently. I've had to see barriers and overcome barriers. This morning, if I wanted to drink a cup of coffee without spilling it all over me and changing 5 times, I had to figure out how to do that. And that's awesome. It's awesome to be able to learn and to see issues and barriers in life, because then you just say, look, I'm not afraid of this issue. I'm going to work my way through it. I'm going to develop some patience, some determination, some motivation, and then I'm going to get where I need to go. And so for me, it is my greatest trait. It's given me so much in my life. And so I was born and raised here with a disability. Went to Creel Elementary, which was a cool school, and they used to. Oh, that rhymes! Look at that, man! Cool school. Oh, I might have another career in rapping over here. But went to Creel, and the reason I started there is because this is when they were mainstreaming, which meant it used to be you had a school for disabled people and a school for quote unquote normal people, and they were separate. So back in the late 70s, they started combining them. But at Creel, I would spend half my day in like physical therapy. So like I'd be swimming, I'd be playing with shaving cream as a 6-year-old, working with my hands, and then the other half of the day I'd spend it with a classroom of quote unquote, normal kids or abled kids. And it was awesome. I was just wrapped in so much love. I met 3 of my teachers from then at a campaign event, and they just, oh man, I was so proud. I said, I hope I make you guys proud. Because that's really what it's about. The people in your life that pour into you, it's about making sure that they're proud of what you do. And so I went to Creel, and then went to Indialantic Elementary, and then went to Hoover Junior High, and then went to MCC, graduated high school, went off to the University of Florida, and got a degree in TV and radio production, and then started working for the university in an IT department. I was lucky at Creel when I was 6. Somebody said, he needs to learn computers. And these are going to be huge. That's 1982, man. So I was like, okay, that sounds cool. So I've just had a computer in front of me since I was 6. And I've gotten to know it. And so when I was at UF one day answering phones, hello, student services, how can Vinnie help you? Somebody put a laptop down in front of me, and they're like, this thing doesn't work. Can you fix it? And I was like, yeah. So right place, the right time, man. Fixed it. Next thing I know, I'm running an IT department at UF.
No way.
Yeah.
Wait, let me go back.
Please.
'Cause I'm really curious. Can you talk to me specifically? What is your disability, and at what point in your life did you start to recognize that? And what was that experience like for you?
It's great, man. So it's called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. Congenita just means at birth. Multiplex is in more than one places. And arthrogryposis, it really means like lack of movement in joints. And so it's a rare disability that affects people differently. And so some people will have it in their arms. Basically, when I was born, my knees or elbows wouldn't bend. So they were fused almost straight. And then the upper shoulder muscles, I don't have as much. So if I'm going to raise my hand, I'm throwing that bad boy up using my waist and using my body, and I'm going to throw it up. But I can't hold it up. So that was my disability. But it's crazy, man. Like growing up, my mother would take me to see a doctor in Atlanta, and they would be like, well, he should do this or he should do that. I had some doctors that were like, well, break his arms and we'll put him in slings. I mean, you don't know. Science doesn't know. Doctors don't know. So my mother was like, all right, we're not going to do surgery, but I will try to work with him every day and try to force his joints to bend. And so every day I would lay down in the middle of the living room floor. And she told me these stories. I don't remember them, but she would cry because I was laying there on my back crying as she was trying to get my elbows and my knees to bend. And she was able to get my knees to bend maybe 45 degrees, one elbow to bend. The other one wouldn't bend. And so as a kid playing in the neighborhood, those bouncy horse balls that kids had? Well, a bunch of the neighborhood kids were all together at our house, and one kid was bouncing on the ball, bouncing around the house. All the other kids ran. Somebody bumped into me. I fell over, broke that arm that wouldn't bend. It broke clean, and that's that's that. So that's really my disability. But growing up, my parents were amazing. I really believe great kids are made. They're made. It's not an accident. And my parents were amazing. And so growing up, they never said, oh, Vinnie might not be able to do this, or Vinnie might not be able to do this. The first time I heard my mother say he might not be able to do something was when I was 17 getting ready to go away to college. And my dad was like, he's going to be 3 hours away. What if he can't put his shoes on in the morning or something, My mom's like, well, if he can't, then he moves back here and he becomes a productive member of society. So that was the first time I heard in my life my mother say that I might not be able to do something. So I just grew up like that. My aunt, who passed now, but she used to tell a story where I was sitting on the ground, a bowl of popcorn at my ankles, and I was looking at it, and it was farther away from me than I could reach. She said she moved the bowl closer to me, and I started crying. And I was just crying. So she moved it back to where it was, further away from me. And she said I stopped crying. And I kept looking at it. And then I scooted my butt up to it and was able to eat. So, this has been, it's been a long journey. It's one I'm happy and proud of who I am, how I got here, and ready to serve my community, man.
It's interesting because I had a much smaller disability when I was younger.
Yeah.
I failed the 3rd grade. Had some dyslexia, struggled with reading.
Yeah.
And I remember failing the 3rd grade, feeling like it was the worst experience of my life.
Yeah.
And for years, I walked around with a victim's mentality. No, it's interesting.
Yeah, no,
but when I hear you talk about kind of what you went through, it sounds like that was never a thing.
So it was a thing, but man, when you look at some of the bigger issues in life now as an adult, the thing is as children and parents, they're doing the best they can, and with kids. And that's one of the reasons why I coach Little League Soccer. I've been coaching little kid soccer for 16 years. I love being a physically disabled guy out on a field showing kids, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different and encouraging them to be themselves. But man, growing up, that was back in the days of Galaxy Skateway, and there was skate parks, or not skate parks, but roller skating like nights. And I couldn't roller skate. And so I remember, man, that was tough. It'd be tough to be walking around the rink while other people were in the rink, especially when they would be like, all right, couples, everybody grab a friend and, get on the rink. And I was just sitting on the side. But I had friends in my life, and they poured love into me. I had family in my life, and they poured love to me. So sure, there were times that it was sad. It was hard to be different growing up. It was. But I always had that love in my life, that after I was done crying and getting that emotion out, it was like it's all okay. But stuff still happens now, Barry. I told a story. Man, I was eating sushi in Cocoa Village at Tai Tai. By the way, shout out to Tai Tai. Give me some free sushi next time I head in there.
Get Tai Tai.
Yeah,
Tai Tai, did you hear that? I'm coming too.
Yeah,
we're coming for
Barry.
sushi, Tai Tai. Let's hook it up.
Yeah.
Hook it up.
So I went in there with a couple of my buddies, and we're sitting there. And in there, they've got bench seating. So there was a lady sitting right next to me, like rubbing elbows close. And I was eating miso soup. And I can use my hands sometimes for soup or oatmeal. It's just harder. So I was using my mouth to drink my soup. Maybe I was slurping. I'm pretty good, though. I try not to slurp loud. But this lady looked over at me, and she goes, use your hands. And then it hit her like, oh, my gosh, he can't use his hands. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, ma'am, it's cool. It's all right. Well, so we just kept eating. I saw her get up, and then I saw her come back. And when the checks came out, everyone at my table got a check but me. And I looked over, and I said, ma'am, did you buy my meal? And she said, yes, I'm so sorry. And she starts bawling, and I'm bawling because she's bawling. And she's like, I've got a cousin or somebody in her life she mentioned that had a disability. And, it was just her. She was having a rough day. She was struggling. And this is the thing with life, man, is you got to be proud of who you are. And Barry, in third grade, I'm sorry that was something that was different in your life. But once you find that pride, once you find that strength within you, man, then people can say what they want, They can throw daggers at you. But if you're like, I know who I am, and yeah, maybe I deserve some of those daggers, but it's not gonna break me down.
It took me a really long time.
I'm sorry, man.
Actually, when I started to resolve it was when I was in my 40s. I started going to Toastmasters. I don't know if you ever heard of Toastmasters. I
have, of course, man. Great.
And it was the first time that I talked publicly about it. Yeah. And while I started talking, the first time I started talking publicly about it, I started breaking up.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize how big of a deal it was. But here's where you and I are on the same page, and this is kind of the question, shaping up my second part of the question is at that point I started saying, and what I like about what you're saying was, you got to accept yourself. That's right? It, and you have to accept your weaknesses, and you have to own them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and that shift happened literally in my late 30s to my 40s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a long time to wait.
Yeah.
When did you start to make the shift? And was there something that happened? Was there something you did, or what? How did that go?
And see, here's the thing, right? When you have dyslexia or some form of intellectual developmental disability, that's an invisible disability. You can choose to talk about it. You can choose to tell people. When you have a physical disability, if people see me, I can't say, look away. You're not going to see my disability. It's there. And so I don't have a choice. It happens. And so for me, it was easier to accept it because I had to. Another story, I was in Amsterdam for a bachelor party. It's a whole other show, Jesse. We'll talk about that later. But literally.
Come back for the inside.
I had a passport. I had my passport in my mouth. That's how I carried it. And I walk up to customs, and the guy goes, what, are you hungry? Joking about me carrying it in my mouth. The food court's right over there. And I'm like, okay, man, that's cool. Like, people see that about me.
Yeah.
And so I learned earlier in life to be like, this is how I am. But people that have an invisible disability, man, that's hard. Because you can choose, and people don't see your barrier, right?
Yeah.
Barrier, if they're like, here, read this, and your dyslexia causes you to take longer to read it or to not understand it, then they're like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you read it? They can't see the barrier. But for me, if I go to a place where there's stairs, people are going to go, oh, yeah, let me see if I can find a way to have you overcome this barrier. But for me, Again, I really was not that conscious of my disability. I mean, again, I cried. There were some down times, but I would just move on with the love. But I remember maybe it was 3rd grade or 4th grade. And again, this is usually people telling me. I had another aunt, and she asked me, if you had a wish in your life, what would you wish for? And I said, I wish that there'd be no more world hunger. And here I am like a 4th grader or 5th grader. And she turned to me and she goes, you don't wish that you weren't disabled? And like literally in my mind, I didn't even think that was a possible answer, because growing up, it was never presented that, oh, you're wrong or you were born wrong. I always just feel like I'm born right. And man, when I die, if St. Peter's opens that door and let me into heaven, I'm not going to change. Like I'm going to be hanging out in heaven disabled, because it's how I am. It's who I am. But I feel your pain, and I know I keep saying I'm sorry, but I talk to a lot of high school kids, and I had a high school kid at Holy Trinity ask me, what do you do when other kids are wearing the cool jacket? In other words, what do you do when you stick out? What do you do when you're not that cool? Man, I had a mouth, and I have a mouth, and I've got a great communication ability, and that got me in with a lot of crowds. I could make people laugh. That made it a lot easier. But I know some people struggle, and it's all about just trying to accept who you are, and I want to be that model for people. Accept who you are. My hair, I don't have much on top of my head, but there's a little there, and when the wind hits, it stands straight up, man. And sometimes people would be like, oh, why don't you put that down? And I'm like, it's all right. It's my little trademark. I got a little hair sticking up, Like Charlie Brown, right? He had that little curl or something like that. Yeah. Keith Winston has his eyebrows. That's the executive director of Brevard Zoo. What's up, Keith? He's got these crazy eyebrows. Love them. But so for me, it's just about being who you are, and I want to try to help other people accept who they are when they're ready. Man, disability is a broad spectrum, and there are some people that their disability is their worst thing, and their struggle every day. And I honor and I respect that. We've all got to work through life at our own pace.
Yeah.
For me, this is what I've done and who I am. And but man, again, there's still struggles. My vehicle, when I have to get a vehicle, it takes 8 months for them to adapt it. So if I'm in an accident today, I'm going 8 months without transportation. Now, thankfully, I've got friends, I've got family, I've got Uber. Props to Uber. Uber, give me rides for like a year free. Come on.
I don't think we're that big, but
really,
hey,
not yet.
Let's we might get Uber as a spot. I like you're a big thinker.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, like again, there's struggles, there's barriers.
Yeah.
But if you got people and family in your life, then people that shower you with love. My mother wraps me in a blanket of love every time I see her, talk to her.
See, that's a good thing.
It's an amazing
What's
thing.
interesting is I like the story of the popcorn bowl, right?
Yeah, man.
And what the other question is where, suffering makes us stronger. I assume that you're probably have a lot more durability and strength because of it, which makes you great at what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not easy, and I want to talk about that as well. But on this topic of the popcorn bowl, like, how do you, there's probably a certain part of you that could be catered to in every way, shape, or form because people definitely want to help you. How do you draw the line of like, hey, there's certain things I need to do on my own? And is that a thing that you have to do on a regular basis?
Yeah. And so for me, there's like a leadership strength thing. And for me, I'm a type of person that wants others to feel comfortable in my presence. And so if somebody comes up to me and they try to help me, I'm never going to snap back because it's usually something in them, right? Like something in them is telling them I should help this person. So that's cool. Let them do it, and then we can talk about it after, right? And so here's the thing. I always tell people, if they ask me or they do it for me and then they apologize, they're always like, oh, I'm so sorry for asking. And I'm like, look, if I'm drowning in a lake or a pond, don't ask me for help. Just help me. Save me. Save my life. Otherwise, just ask. And again, it's cool, man. Some people want to help. Awesome. If I can help them feel good about themselves or better in their day, for me, I'm cool with that. But the normal line is like, just ask, anybody. Mm-hmm. Just be like, hey, would you like some help? And if they say no, then cool. But man, there are all sorts. I was in Publix maybe like 2 years ago, and some lady comes up to me and she goes, arthrogryposis, huh? and the name of my disability. And I was like, yeah. And then she just walked away. And I couldn't tell if that was like a good thing or a bad thing. Like, yeah.
What?
So
that's amazing.
So it's all good. And when I go to Europe, man, like I remember I was in Santorini, and that's literally like volcanic mountains. It's volcanic mountains. Yeah. So it's stairs everywhere. And people just staring at me because they don't see disabled people. Europe, as in general, is an older construction, older building, older architecture. So there's stairs, not as many elevators. So when you're out walking around, people stare. And it's cool. I felt like I was like some huge celebrity, I'm like, hey, waving to people. Hi, how you doing? But, it's just, you just got to see the challenges in your life and know you can overcome them, try to overcome them, and then move forward. But it's not easy, man. And there are people out there that are not going to be able to do it, and they're going to struggle. And I'm going to do what I can to help them.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay, so you go to school.
Yeah.
You're doing IT.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Take me through your process to why in the hell are you doing politics?
Yeah.
And I say that politely and respectfully because actually I have a fond appreciation for people who want to step up and lead this country. We need it.
Yeah.
Good people.
Yeah.
But you're an IT guy. How do you get here? Can you bring me up current?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it really started back, again, so many of my stories when I was a kid. And so the family business, my father and his parents, was retirement communities. And so when you own and operate a retirement community, it's like an HOA. It's like a little city. And I remember mornings, Christmas mornings, where we'd wake up, open Christmas gifts, and my dad with his VHS camcorder over his shoulder, hold on, let me get this on tape. Then he'd put the camera down and he'd go into work on Christmas Day because a pipe burst, because of a freeze. And I remember for Christmas, every Christmas, he would buy every resident a bottle of wine. And they'd get to choose red or white. So Vinny and my sisters or cousins, we'd drive around a little golf cart around the community, knocking on the door saying, Merry Christmas, would you like red or white? So I really was born and raised into like this family community of giving and serving. I've got a sister who's a nun. So like when you're raised in an environment where service matters, where family matters, where what you do is serve, it can be contagious, man. Because we saw those faces of those people. Every time we'd come by, they'd pinch our cheeks. Oh, how are you doing? We made a difference in their life. My father made a difference in their life, And so just born and raised in a situation like that, you learn to serve. And then I took karate growing up, and that was really cool, man. Again, it gave me confidence in myself. But then my sensei was like, Vinny, why don't you try to teach some of the kids? And so I got a little bit involved of educating, of helping others learn. And that was really cool, man. And then the communication thing, again, I can talk and I can listen and I can hear. A lot of people don't hear words. They hear concepts. But when you hear words, you can hear the reasoning behind those words. And that's such a huge part in governance, man, is understanding where somebody's coming from, connecting with them, having them see your perception, your perspective, and then compromise, work together. And if you can do those things, man, if people can feel included, if they can feel heard, if they are heard, then when you work together in a community, the community is better off. Because the community is not just me. The community is everybody. And everybody feels heard and feels served.
I mean, what you're saying about common sense, bro, that's a big deal these days. Well, I'm curious, career-wise.
Yeah.
I think you've been serving. You've been serving for a while too, haven't you?
I have.
You don't have to give me every step, but I'm curious, like, when did you first get involved personally?
Yeah.
And talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. And so let me go back to your IT question. I'm sorry. One of the things that gets me with IT and computers, man, is they're a tool of efficiency. They were straight up designed to be more efficient. Yet you see people struggling with computers. I can't turn it on. I can't get it to work. It takes longer in their day to do something than it would if a computer wasn't in their life.
Especially when you're talking, which is, what year is this when you first started doing it?
Like 85, 86, even in the early 90s, man.
Yeah.
And it just took so long. And the thing is I want to use tools in our life to make our lives more effective, more efficient, and make our lives better. And so that's what computers, that's what IT can do. And so that's one of the things with my governance. I'm really big about effectiveness and efficiency. Let's do something better tomorrow than we did today. That's one of my big things. So that's one of the reasons why I got into government, is because I just think there's so much efficiency and effectiveness that we can work on. But to answer your question, like I think I was at Indiana Elementary and I ran for like 4th grade class president or 5th grade class president. You know, I'm a people person. I like people. I liked my class. I wanted to see if I could make decisions for them to make it better. And I remember there used to be a school bell that rang, and it stopped ringing. And back then I was like, oh, my one issue is going to be, if I win, I'm going to have that school bell ring again. And I remember asking kids, like, wouldn't it be nice if you had a school bell ring every morning? And they were like, yeah. And so I think they stopped it because the neighborhood got upset because every morning it would ring and people were trying to sleep or something like that. But like, that's my first time I remember getting involved in leadership or politics. But at UF, one of the things in the IT department, because of my disability, is I worked in accessible technology, helping people with disabilities learn how to use technology. That's the reason I created my production company. I worked with a freshman who had gone away for a winter break, and she had a skiing accident. She hit a tree, broke her neck, paralyzed from the waist down. Here's an 18-year-old girl, first year at college, you know, feeling like the whole world's in front of her, and she comes back from her winter break vacation now fully paralyzed from the neck down, a quadriplegic. And so I remember working with her, man, and we had a head tracker that would take a little dot on her forehead, and she could do this to move the mouse around. She had a breathe tube where she could blow or suck to do the clicking. And man, when I trained her and then set her up on her own, and she went to like 17.com or one of those like teenage, you know, magazines back then, her eyes just blew up, man, blew up. And I was like, I can't keep working in IT. I can't be away from a community that I can affect and make change this much. And so right then I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to create a production company because I want to be able to inspire people. I want to be able to motivate people. I want to help people work through feelings. Man, one of our best, the project I'm most proud of, Monty and the Runaway Furnace, it's about grief. Straight up about grief. Simple concept. Yet we hide it. We package it in this whimsical world with an old man who has grief and a younger man who has grief. And it's about their struggle. They affect grief. They approach grief differently. And so I don't remember what your question was.
No, we're talking about. No, this is good. Yeah. I'm liking what you're talking about. Production company. So how long did you do production?
So let's see. I started the production company, I think in 07. No, maybe 04. It's been a long time. And so I can't remember when, but I started it when I was at UF. My brother went to UF, University of Florida, too. And I remember the first project we did during spring break, we checked out some camera equipment, and we drove up way north to northern Canada to an area called Muskoka and filmed this guy named Tyler who did skateboard ramps in his wheelchair. And I'm like, I want to just drive up to north Canada. I mean, we're so far north. It was July, Barry, and there was still ice on the snow or on the ground. I saw these gray things on the ground, and as a Florida kid,
you're a Floridian. I grew up north.
I know, but I'm in shorts, man, in July. And I'm like, what's that gray stuff? They're like, that's ice. But we did this biopic on this guy named Tyler Deeth, and we didn't talk about how he got disabled. We didn't talk about why he was disabled, because that's not the story. The story is how is he living now, and how is his brain? He was so creative and engineered. Man, we were in his garage, and he's building like a jet ski shell that he can wheel out on his wheelchair and ride. And he built like a three-wheel thing that he hooks up to his wheelchair and drives him around. I mean, I just loved his creative brain. That's what I wanted to capture. And so we did that. So I started that at UF. We did some like live music stuff. I had a friend named Marcy, and she was an amazing musician. We did stuff like that. And then my brother went off to LA to get his master's in film, and we kept working together. And then we made that Monty movie. That movie took us 10 years from when we wrote the script to practical photography to filming, to then editing, special effects, and then releasing it. But man, I can't tell you how proud I was to premiere it in LA at the Dances with Film Festival at the Tokyo Theater and have the people that worked on it, 4 years, 5 years, 3 years ago, sit down and be able to see their work come to life, man. That's an honor. It's an honor to take people's work. Because, when you work on a film, right, you might work on a section, right? You might work on a part.
Yeah.
But you don't see and hear it all put together until it is.
Takes a long time.
And I was so proud to bring that together. But that was a struggle, man. Our main actor, Charlie Deercorp, he ended up being in the hospital for like 4 or 5 or 6 months, right? So filming pauses. NBC bought our location once. They're like, here's a check for $10,000. We want your space because we're filming a pilot for a TV show. This was at UCLA, Kirchhoff Hall. We're like, okay, cool, So we put our production on hold. One weekend, we put our production on hold and filmed our Doritos ad, the one that was in the Crash the Super Bowl contest that aired.
I gotta see. Wait, I gotta see some of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? You remind me. Have you ever seen Herzog's? He shot that film down in South America about the rubber. The guy who was a rubber importer or exporter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
I can't remember the name.
But...
And they made a behind the scenes of him making the film.
Yes.
Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
I need to dig this film up. What's the name? Let me look this up.
Yeah. Do the Googles.
Yeah. We gotta get the names.
Do the
on
Netscape
this.
Navigator.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about back in the day, IT.
Well, you know what? The way to go is ChatGPT. Watch this.
Oh,
do you do this for this search?
Can I tell you a story?
Please do.
I did the voice ChatGPT with a high school class, and it was amazing. Because I was teaching how to handle trolls online. And I said, watch, I'm going to turn my phone into a troll. And I said, hey, I want you to be a disgruntled person on Facebook commenting on my post. And this is my post. And I said it, and it was like, I can't believe you feel that way. And then I was like, okay, ChatGPT, I want you to be meaner. And it was like screaming at me. And the kids in this classroom, I'm like, you guys need to learn this technology.
Oh, my gosh. You're so right. No, this is so amazing. And I'm behind.
It's amazing.
Jesse just showed me yesterday. Jesse's our producer, if you don't know. Jesse just showed me this new app. What's that app you got for phones? Can you speak to that, Jesse? He doesn't have a mic in front of him here. Robo Killer, where it answers the phone for you when you have calls and it gives them messes with them.
Yeah.
I just put it on my phone, so I got to get it set up. But let me do this. Herzog film name from shooting in the jungle about the rubber exporter and the name of the documentary about the film. Let's see if we get this.
And while we're waiting on that,
I don't even think I'm gonna cut any of this. Like this. I think this is good content.
Good, let's roll it.
Let's just
man.
roll.
Yeah.
It's Fitzcarraldo.
Yeah.
Fitzcarraldo was the film, and then the documentary was Burden of Dreams. Have you seen that?
Yes, Burden of Dreams.
So when you tell me about your thing, every filmmaker has a Burden of Dreams kind of story.
They do.
But you've seen the Burden of Dreams. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Herzog,
and it makes or breaks you, right?
Herzog is nuts, by the way. But I love him. He's easily my favorite.
Moby Dick, man. It's like that whale,
No, he's my favorite. He's absolutely my favorite filmmaker on the planet.
Yeah, and so here's a little inside political tip. For all those people out there, and I may get yelled at for giving this tip away. You can actually use ChatGPT.
You can text me later. I'll censor it if we.
Oh no, you're good.
I'm just kidding.
Good,
I'm joking.
Man.
I'm joking.
I'm a First Amendment right guy, but
man,
but
I like it. Yes.
Here's the thing: you can totally use ChatGPT to practice calling people as a candidate and telling them about your platform.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How would you do that? Wait, how would you do that?
I haven't done it, but people, my volunteers in my campaign are like, okay, practice with ChatGPT. You just use the ChatGPT apps, the voice part, and you say, I'd like to role play. And then it'll say like, okay, what do you want to do? And I'd say, pretend you're a resident in Brevard, and I'm calling you because I want your support in my campaign.
Wait, let's do this. I'd like to role play.
Now wait for it to ask you what role.
Okay, hold on. It says, sounds great. What kind of role would you like to play? Are you interested in? So then what do?
You say, I want you to pretend you're a Brevard resident and I'm a candidate for county commissioner and I'm going to call you.
I want you to pretend you're a Brevard resident and I'm a candidate for a county commissioner and I want to call you. Dude, this is brilliant. Are you kidding me?
The crazy thing is it's going to pull things.
It says that sounds like a fun and engaging scenario. I'll play the role of county Brevard County resident and respond with questions and concerns that you might hear from a local voter.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it pulls stuff.
Just go ahead and start the call whenever you're ready. So what's the first thing I want to do?
Just say, hi. Do your spiel.
Hi,
Barry.
this is Barry Walton. I'm running for county commissioner. I want to support your needs. Barry, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate your taking the time to hear from the residents. There are a few things that are top of mind for Brevard County. First, I'm concerned about development and how it's impacting the environment. The Lagoon is such a critical part of the community. And I worry that if I don't take it serious, we'll lose it. It's true, right?
Yeah.
That's an issue.
100%.
Also, I'd love to see improvements in public infrastructure, road maintenance, stormwater management, and reliable transition.
If AI knows the issues in the county, the commissioners really should.
Oh,
right?
So
right?
true.
I mean, seriously. And so one of the fun things you can do with that is go like, I'd like you to be meaner, or I'd like you to be angrier.
Oh, yeah. That we'll do one more. This is brilliant, dude.
Yeah.
This is such a good case for why you're an awesome candidate, because you're one step ahead of the game, which is it is.
Like
you
I
have
said,
to
right?
be, right?
Technology can help us.
Right.
It can help. It can hurt too, man.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged for sure.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg, give me a call, dude. We got to talk about Facebook because there's some things we can do to make it better.
Right.
But it can technology
like getting FBI agents out of the.
I'm joking. Like responding
Yeah.
to my requests when I say, "Hey, this is spam,"
Yeah.
and I get 800 of the same messages. Why do I have to tell you that? 800 messages get sent out with the same thing? Come on, man. Do some work behind the scenes. But that's the thing.
So
technology can help
This
us.
is the beauty of your background.
Yeah.
Is because you see things. See, I wouldn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
I would but spam and bots are a huge part of politics right now, right?
Huge. I sent my first ad on Facebook. I literally, no lie, got 20 messages to my politician page saying, "Oh, your ad has broken Facebook rules. Click here to correct it." It's not real. It's fake. I got 20 of the same message, and I have to sit there and delete all of them. Come on. Facebook should be able to use their computers, use their power, use AI to be like, hey, by the way, this one might be spam. They can do better. They should do better.
Yeah.
We can do better.
Yeah.
You know?
I was telling you.
Leaders.
Well, it's a big deal. Listen, and this is a big topic on a national scale right now.
Yeah.
With our elections and whatnot. And I told you I'm kind of working at an HOA level.
Yeah.
And there was the budget came out, and just real quick synopsis. I don't want to bore the audience because I'm small time, but I volunteered to be part of the HOA. I am.
Big Time Barry, man. That's like your nickname.
They call me Big Time Barry. I'm the one community member on a builder majority HOA. Talk about a curse and a blessing, though. I wanted to learn. I volunteered. I did this for a reason. Yeah. But the point is we pushed out the budget, and people didn't like the budget because the price went up. No one wants to pay more money.
No.
And Facebook exploded. And it was amazing. It seemed like the entire community was against me when there were 3 people that were just stirring the shit. And people change. And there was no bots on this. This was just human interaction.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how another thing I find fascinating, and this isn't related to what you're saying, which I think is an important issue, and I think the fact that you're capitalizing on digital media and on AI in general is important. But it's fascinating to me. I think they call it othering, what people do on social media, where they go, "I don't know you personally.
Yeah.
I've never met you, never come to your house," even though, like, literally most of these people I could throw a stone and hit their house because they're in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
In my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But they've othered me.
Yeah.
And they're just throwing stones, and you're just like, dude, like I'm an actual person, not getting paid, volunteered. Go easy on me. But it's fascinating for you. Are you running like in your campaign? Are you running into this? Like, are you
all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this with the Lagoon work that we've done, the Citizens Oversight Committee. I get so much. Like I talked about those high school kids, and I was teaching them about trolls. I took a real life example. Somebody was yelling at us on the Lagoon. I've got an email from a woman that was like, "You want more money for what? I can't believe this." And what it is it's dehumanizing. They're taking away your dignity. See, I've got a belief. People are born with dignity. Every human being has dignity. Respect is earned and or lost. But dignity is something you're born with. And if you don't know somebody personally, it's so easy to other them. It's so easy to put them in a dehumanizing position. They're not human. They don't have feelings. They don't have struggles. They don't have challenges. And then they just throw stones. And that's part of my platform is like, I want you to know me. I want you to see me. Know who I am. Because if you know who I am, and if you know my reasons for doing things, that can help you understand me while I try to understand you. Because that's what it's all about, right? Like if you want to serve somebody, like you're volunteering, and you go to somebody and you're like, I want to serve you, and all they do is throw hate at you, one of the options is for you to put a wall up. Well, I'm going to wall up. And then they wall up, right? And then all that happens between those two walls is a wasteland. And that's not how a community should be. And so I'm all about pulling those walls down, meeting me, having the strength, saying, yeah, I was wrong here. Or, yeah, this is my weakness. I'm cool with that. Let's talk. But that's a big thing, man. And technology makes it so easy to dehumanize because it's just a bunch of characters. It's not a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
And so I always tell people every time, man, I had a post on Facebook. Somebody was like, I saw your sign next to a Harris sign, so I can't vote for you. And I was like, well, sir, I'm sorry that you saw my sign next to a Harris sign, and that means you can't vote for me. But I want to serve my community. I said, Washington, D.C. is 868 miles away from here.
Yeah.
Let's fix our issues here, and then we can worry about those. And then I get a message back from him going, today the Harris sign is gone. Maybe you removed it to appease me. And I was like, sir, I can promise you I didn't do that. And I said, you know what? Let's meet. Let's get together. Let's talk. Because if they can see me, if they can see my eyes, man, know I'm human, know I'm a person, then let's work together. There's a compromise. There's a middle ground on almost every issue.
Well, the other thing that you said that's interesting is I think it's hard for people to parse government.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've worked a little bit in government. I had a client. I have a production company as well, as you know, and we interviewed. I got to interview the mayor of Tampa, for example. I got to interview the mayor of Savannah, but I also interviewed a lot of local city officials, city managers in small towns in Ohio and New Hampshire and all over the country. And one thing that I learned in the process was there's a big difference between local, regional, state, and national government. But if you're in a party, you just get piled in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, county commissioner, like how much of these because at the top they throw all these hot items because they want to fire people up and categorize them, split.
The problem is they use generalized words like Democrats or Republicans, right?
Yeah. And
so if you are one of those, the same issues at the top of the ticket that are hot roll down to you.
You're on that team.
You're on that team.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm on Team Brevard, man.
Because you just said something counter. You said, I'm open to free speech.
Not only
which is a big issue right now. People feel like they're being censored if they're that way or not if they're this way, and you're not that way
So
at all.
I had a friend approach me, a good friend, and ask me if he could put a Trump sign up next to my sign on his yard because it might affect my race. And I said, please put that sign there. That's your First Amendment right. And my leadership, my governance is not about you not having your First Amendment right to express your opinion.
Yeah.
I need your opinion, right? Like if I'm going to serve you, Barry, if I'm going to choose lunch for us, right? I need to know you. I need to know what you want. Yeah. How can I do that if I don't know you? Yeah. So I was like, I'd like to come out and put that sign up with you, because that's your right, man. Yeah. That's your right. Use it, honor it, celebrate it. And then when it's time to solve a local issue, I know they're going to be with me when it comes time to solve an issue and get to a compromise. That's why media, Barry, you work in media. Yeah. Media can be used in a positive and a negative way, just like technology. And when you use all-encompassing words, like Republicans or like Democrats, man, that hurts people. It hurts people that you don't even know.
Reduces your. I think it also belittles the human's ability to research, study, and be nuanced in their candidates. Right?
Yeah.
I love my wife. My wife is from Italy.
Yeah.
She immigrated here, worked for 10 years to get her green card, and is voting this year for the first time in a presidential election. She's so excited. You get those ballots in the mail that tell you the issues, and you open them up and you look at them.
Yeah.
My wife. Now, I grew up in this country. I see those things, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. I kind of know who I'm voting for. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
My wife's opening that thing up. She's reading it. She's coming in. I'm in the office. She's going, "What about this? How do I learn more about this?" She's so invested in every issue. But I'm for this candidate, but I'm against this topic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not all in one bucket for her, right?
No.
Because and
it shouldn't be.
And that's what's beautiful about her being an immigrant.
Yeah.
She hasn't been trained and categorized. You're on red team, you're on blue team.
Yeah.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more because and that's what's getting us in trouble.
It is. It is. That's dividing us from the jump. From the jump. If you don't even know my opinion on things and you're automatically saying that guy's bad or that guy's the enemy or that guy doesn't want to serve me, like when you start there, imagine the energy that I have to, and I gladly will put in to be like, no, man, I'm a human. Like, let's talk. But that energy that I spend reconnecting, building that bridge, could be spent to solve the problem. Now, I'm all about that, man. I've got boundless energy. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I will put in that work. I'm ready for that work. But I want to tell you, I've got 3 C's in my campaign: communicate, collaborate, and cultivate. And that cultivate is about us not slipping back to where we were. And so when I build relationships and I say, yeah, there may be a D by my name because there's 2 parties. Well, there's 3. But if you want to vote in a primary, you're either an R or you're a D.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And so the thing is this: I'm going to treat everybody in my district and in my county as a person first.
Yeah.
And always. And I want to hear from them. And then let's solve problems, man. Let's solve problems. And then we can figure out favorite colors later. My thing is this. Are you a football fan? If you're a football fan, you have a favorite team, right? But you love football.
Yeah.
But you have a team. Well, I've got a D by my name, but I love my county.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the best that I can to make sure that it succeeds and that the people in the county succeed.
Well, here's the thing is my thing with America right now is there was a time when I'd be thankful to my grandparents at some level, the greatest generation at some level. I mean, there's a lot more nuance than that, but they did do some things right. They set us up. We were benefactors of a great era of people and a lot of people with visions. But I genuinely look at the country now and go, we have real problems.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer like the 80s and 90s where like our problems were we have first world problems. Yeah. Like, we're starting to look at real problems.
Yeah.
And the division and the fighting and you're for that issue, I'm for this issue, and the lack of compromise.
That's
right?
It, man.
And here's the thing is if you're and I've always said this, there's a right and a left for a reason, just like you have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere.
Yeah.
And you can't live one without the other.
Right.
And you have to have remember when they used to give people lobotomies?
Yeah.
They're basically splitting
cut off part of your brain.
They're splitting the hemispheres.
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
Yeah, separating
a lobotomy is cutting that piece that connects your hemispheres.
Yeah.
People go insane.
Severing it. Yeah.
Right? You can't do that in society. You can't do that. And we have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And you have to see a candidate for who they are.
Right. And like just like I've been talking about, people should be proud of their opinions and their feelings and where they stand on an issue, right? Straight up. Be proud of it. That's cool. But then let's work together to realize there's a solution and there's other people. Again, 104,000 voters in my district, right? There's no way that everybody's going to feel the same. Yeah. It's going to be a broad spectrum. And so if I want to lead effectively, and if I want the residents to feel as if they're part of the governing process, then I've got to find a way to make as most people as I can feel heard, feel involved, and find a solution that tries to be a win-win. But that initial is hard, man. And I know before this interview you were like, Vinny, let's talk about some hot topics. Well, like one of them is the Westin Hotel in Cocoa Beach. They submitted a contract request with the county commission to have up to 100 days a year exclusive access to half of Lori Wilson Park.
I've seen it.
That contract was for 15 years, and they could request events out 3 years in advance of that. So you're talking 18 years, nearly 2 decades of that type of interaction. I just think from the jump that was wrong. From the get that was wrong. And I get it. And they've withdrawn it. But they had a meeting yesterday. They had a community meeting, which my recommendation is usually community meeting first. Explain, talk to people, get their feedback before you go approaching, a request. But they had a community meeting yesterday, 100 seats maybe in a ballroom. There were like 250 people there, standing room only. People screaming, people shouting. They were angry. They were upset. And the Westin had announced that they had retracted that contract. But some people, they didn't get that communication. And so they'd walk up to the mic and they'd be like, we don't like this 100 days. And the Westin was like, well, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. So there's like communication. There's, the anger. There's so much involved in community governance. And that's why I think you've got to be able to communicate effectively with people and often. Right. One of the things I'd like to do is have like virtual town halls, like a week before we have our meetings. Because this is one of the biggest misnomers. If you wait to have your 3 minutes at a public meeting, that's the last step. That should be the emergency. Because if I'm going to make a decision 10 minutes after you talk, that doesn't give me much time to chew on your opinion. So one of the things I want to do is increase that communication. Let's have a virtual town hall, on Zoom. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to leave your living room. And I understand there may be some technology issues. Let's work through those. But we've got to have better communication with the people we represent. We have to, because then the divisiveness goes away, right? Like if you're online and you talk about something and you realize somebody in your neighborhood and you're like, hey, I know that person. Oh, I agree with them. Or maybe I don't agree with them, but I'd like to meet them and talk more about it. Like that type of community encouragement, that's where we need to be. That's where we need to be at.
Another topic.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of topics.
Topic of topics.
We're on the topic of topics.
Let's go.
This is the topic of topic hour.
The topic of topic hour with Mary Walton.
So you have a challenge on your hands as well, because huge. As we got on ChatGPT, we have this boom in development that's happening. We have natural resources that we want to protect, but we also have a growing space industry.
Yeah.
So there has to be a compromise met.
Yes.
Where are we going with that? Because I was part of that Lagoon project. I saw the passion in people's eyes.
Yeah, man.
A few things have I put out that I've had that much interest in.
Yeah.
You were on the Lagoon Commission, correct?
Oversight Committee for the expending. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we first connected.
Yeah. Where
are we going with this, and what are your thoughts on this? Do you have thoughts?
I do. Huge thoughts. So the Lagoon half-cent sales tax has been in place for 8 years, and we've removed 250,000 pounds of nitrogen from the Lagoon, removed or prevented. We've spent or contracted $380 million. We're looking to raise $580 million. We're doing great, man. And the proof is in the pudding, as they say. The water is clearer. That was number one. Let's stop that. Let's stop the system crashing. Because you can still have individual algal blooms or spots. It's a system. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. But we can't have the entire system crash. We can have spots. It's natural. Second thing, we've got to have the sunlight hit the bottom of the sand so that seagrass can grow back. And this is what I always tell people. Drive along the lagoon in the morning hours and look on the light poles or look on the street poles. You'll see birds up there, man, because they can see the bottom of the water. And if they can see the bottom of the water and they're fishing, the lagoon's coming back. So it's been in place 8 years. The current half-cent sales tax has 2 years left, and then it sunsets. I think we should go ahead and renew it again for another 10 years. I'm looking to put that on, and I think it will, whether I win or not, will be on the ballot in 2026 for the voters to choose. Again, they chose it the first time. I hope they choose it again. And over the next 10 years, let's look at broadening our scope. Originally, it was all about nitrogen and phosphorus. That's what cause or feed algal blooms. Now let's broaden our scope, and let's broaden the people we bring to the table. So in that oversight committee, there's 14 people on it. We're losing 7 this year due to term limits. Well, I'm going to be posting online, and I hope everyone who hears this, the applications will be up, man. We need good people to fill the spots on the oversight committee to help guide that money. And one of the things we're doing different this year is we have separate topic areas for people to sit on that committee. And one of them is called Lagoon Commerce. These are people that make their living off the lagoon. Fishermen, tour guides. And so they're now going to have a specific spot on the table to help guide those funds. And what I want to do is I want to include our military at that table too. NO2, our Navy Ordnance Test Unit. I want to do the Space Force, but also the space industry, because I want to invite them to the table, because I think they've got to be involved in this solution. So when they have a rocket launch and they use the water deluge system to help with the engine heat, we've got to reuse that water. We can't have that be fresh water and then have that use every time a rocket launches and then go into the groundwater, because then it's going to go into the lagoon. So we can't keep changing that salinity level, especially with more and more rockets. So for me, it's all about working with the industry. Man, I grew up here watching every space shuttle launch. At Indialantic Elementary, they marched out the whole school. Literally every classroom would march out onto the playground for a launch. Everyone, even the Challenger when it exploded, we were all outside watching it. And so as a kid to grow up and see a rocket go into space, that was cool, man. That showed you nothing was impossible. And so I'm so pro the space industry. I love what SpaceX is doing. Good catch, Elon, with the chopsticks on the first try. Can't wait to see you do it again. But now that we're getting into a phase where it's common and it's not testing, we've got to find ways to make it work in our and with our environment.
Mm-hmm. So development-wise, thoughts on kind of how we shore up on that?
Yeah, it's got to be. So I've got a fun saying, and it's all about being intentional. So like when COVID hit, I'm on the board of a community leadership program. And what we do is we just inspire people to lead in the community. We build a network. We connect people. Because like we talked about earlier, when you don't know your neighbor, how can you work together on something, right? So we connect people. And when COVID hit, our flagship program of taking 60 people in the community from all walks in life and bringing them together and learning about the county, learning about themselves, well, we couldn't do that in person. So we said, okay, let's try to do it on Zoom. But not only let's try to do it on Zoom, but let's lean into it. Like, how can we make this better? And so one of the things I did, every morning, I brought in a musician, local musician, first thing in the morning. So everybody would show up, turn on Zoom, and they'd have an amazing performance from a musician, get inspired, get worked up. And so my big thing is all about leaning in, being intentional. And so with development, I want to do the same thing. You can't stop development, and I don't want to stop it, but I want to do it intentionally. I want to do it right. And so here's an example. FDEP, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, put new rules in on how much water a piece of land has to hold after a storm event. So water comes down from the sky. You've got to hold this water before you can send it off to another body of water. Well, that number just increased and increased dramatically. But those rules don't go into effect for 16 months. So if you get your permit in before then, you're good. Well, what if as the county, the planning and zoning department said, hey, if you agree to do that now, we're going to prioritize your project. Well, for a developer and a builder, the sooner they can get a project built and developed is the sooner they can get money back in their pocket, right? So that's a market force working to make our developments better. And so that's what I talk about being intentional, about finding a win-win where the environment wins, but also the builders and the developers win. And this is something that I always say. There's a saying out there. It says, drain the swamp. We don't want to drain the swamp. Swamps are working. They're cleaning the water, wetlands, swamps. It's what they do. Like, you don't want to drain the swamp.
I like that. It's true.
I get it. You may want to put some people in the swamp and have the swamp clean them.
Yeah, right.
I get it.
I like
but
this.
You don't want to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
And so one of my big platforms is environmental synergy. And I know a lot of people say we need to protect the environment. We do. But we also have to let the environment be the environment. Let the environment do what it does. Let it clean the water so that we don't have to pay to clean the water. So I'm a big believer, again, in win-win. Let's win for the environment. Let's win for developers. There's a development called Babcock Ranch over near the west of Florida. I don't know if you've heard about it. They're planning and zoning, or their developer that worked out there. I met her. She's amazing. And she's like, okay, we've got wetlands. Okay, we've got lakes. We've got ponds. We're going to use this. Like, we're going to have this treat our water. We're not going to spend hundreds of thousands on a big stormwater system with a lot of cement everywhere. We're going to use what we have. And so I think that's how we find those win-win solutions, is by looking at what we have, not rushing, but also thinking outside the box, man. Like, we don't have to pave that over.
Yeah. What's a hesitant voter?
Yeah.
Or middle of the line voter, or even someone who's voting strong Republican.
Yeah.
Like, what are they looking for in a commissioner, and what would you say to them that would, you know, I don't, you know, you're middle of the line, you might get some switch voters. Hard right, you might get some people that like, it's all right if Vinny wins. You know, I'm not totally against it. I mean, what are they? What's the old? And there's probably some old boy stuff around here as well. What are your? I don't know. I'm kind of drifting on this question and trying to pin it down.
So here's the thing. Again, I've worked in this community for 10 years, like throughout the community, all pockets of community. So I'm so blessed and fortunate that I know people. Remember we were talking about not knowing people and the othering. I've had so many emails and texts from people that were like, you know, my father hasn't voted for a Democrat since Jimmy Carter, but he voted for you, you know? And so I've gotten emails from people that are like, we normally vote all Republican, but we're voting for you. So, you know, I think when you put in good work, man, and when people know you, people know your heart, I think that can really change the way somebody views you. But I think one of the things that I can say that I get questions about, because I get questions all the time, one of the biggest is, why a Democrat? Why a Democrat? And I get that. I registered, I think, when I was 26, when I got my first vehicle. That was the first time I had a vehicle. And so I was like, you know what? Let's go do all the things. Let's buy milk at 3 o'clock in the morning and let's register to vote, right? Because I had my freedom. I had my independence. So I did that. But then that was really the last time I thought about my registration. Because I was just like, let's solve things, right? And when I'm in the community, when I'm trying to find funding for habitat homes for female veterans, no one comes up to me and goes, are you Democrat or Republican? Because if you're a Democrat, I'm not going to work with you on building these homes for these homeless veterans, you know? No. You know, when I'm in the community helping increase our mental health capabilities in the county, nobody's like, oh, are you a Democrat or Republican? So it really hasn't affected my ability to solve issues and to make our community better. And so I haven't really, it's not on my mind. Now, one of the things is I think it's great to be able to vote in a primary. It's awesome, man. Because if you're an independent, you don't get to vote in a primary, and you have got to wait until the other two or the two parties put a person forward. So that's one of the reasons why I was in a party, is because I want to help decide who the final one is. You know, that's one of the things I get a lot, is why Democrat. And for me, it's a D, but it's not the stopper or the barrier for solutions. It's not. And so, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was kind of gonna shift any tone, but
please.
No. I have a final question that I want to ask. That's kind of a wrap up question. But before I do that, if people want to know more about you, you know, we're right around the corner. We're going to be putting this out on November. We're going to be putting it out in like 2 days. November 4th, we're all voting.
5th.
Thank you.
You're good.
November 4th.
Barry, if you want to vote the 4th and the 5th, dude, more power to you, man. But just remember, just one vote. One vote. But if you want to do it multiple days, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do it right at midnight. I'll fill it out and put it in the box at 1 minute after.
That works.
No, that's funny.
I mean, it doesn't work.
I have a thing I'm doing on November 4th, and that's where it was stuck in my mind.
Yeah, you got the premiere of the doc, dude. Yeah, the guy riding the bike across America.
Not to throw a wrench in it, but just I'll throw this out there because I think this is of interest.
Yeah.
So I go across the country, and my whole point with this documentary is to build more unity and connect Americans and have them get a glimpse of like this amazing country, the amazing people, and the general perspective on the ground. And that's what I collected while I was crossing it, minus the fact that the guy crossed the country. The country's beautiful. Yeah. And we got hit up by the California fires. We got swept away by a flash flood in Utah. Literally.
Yeah.
The car that we had wrapped was washed away in a flash flood. And from that point on, we were driving white, like U-Haul vans, literally rental vans. But made it across. There was a lot of other fun things. You'll have to check it out. November 4th at 7 p.m., if you want, you know, you have to check it out on YouTube. But you know, on the closing out on what you're doing, you've been busting your tail. I see your name all over town. People want to know more about you. People want to learn anything. Any final thoughts on that before I move on?
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is what I always tell people. Like, I'd love their support and I'd love their vote, but I want them to get to know me, get to know who I am. Again, I think if you know somebody, you can understand why they make a decision. And so they can check my website out, vinforthewin.com. There's all my platform is on there, my history of working in the community, professional, government, volunteer, civic. And then I've got a really cool photo slideshow. I'm so proud of it, man. It's got some really great photos of my life. And I hope people go there, vinforthewin.com, check it out, and learn about me, because I want to represent them. And if they feel that I can, great. Because my saying is Brevard wins with Vin, man. So vinforthewin.com, that's where it's at. And I got your email about the documentary, and I want to tell you how important I think it is that people get outside their bubble, that people get outside what they're used to. International travel to me is one of the most important things anybody can do. Because when you're inside your country, you see the problems, you see how it works. But go to another country, see another country, see what's going on there. That just gives you so much perspective, man. Like being a goldfish in a fishbowl versus being a goldfish in the sea, right?
Yeah.
And so let's get out. Let's expand our minds. Let's not be afraid to learn things, to have a growth mindset. Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about your documentary, man. I've been fortunate and blessed to travel around the world. Once, with our film, that's even cooler, because then you get locals that you can talk to and interact with. But it's all about growing that mind, growth mindset, compromise, treating people with dignity. And then, we've got to move forward. We can't move back.
Well, dude, I've always been on Team America.
Yeah, that's it, man.
That's the team I'm on.
Yeah.
And I like to stay the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I don't like to, I try to stay out of the margins.
Yeah.
You get pulled in sometimes. But I'm a veteran. I'm Team America.
Well, the middle of the road is where the solutions are.
Yeah.
Those are long-term sustainable solutions.
Yeah.
You pick a solution on the left or right, once the power dynamic changes, then that solution might be gone.
Yeah.
But you find that middle of the road solution, you find that Goldilocks solution, that's when you get lasting change, and that's when you really improve a community.
Yeah. And I see, and the biggest thing that I see in you is, number one, in this conversation, I see you. I see past any inhibitions. I see you, which has been great.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I see a certain level of strength and resilience in you that I don't see in a lot of people. And I think it comes from the struggles that you've gone through and overcome.
It comes from the confidence, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know I'll find a way.
Yeah.
But it, again, hasn't always been easy, man. But it doesn't matter if it's easy or hard. What matters is that you get to the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question for you. What if you could anything, this is back to like your grade school question. You can't regurgitate your grade school question. If you could see more of anything in the world, what would it be?
Oh, man. Smiles.
More smiles.
Yeah. Because there's just something about smiling that makes you feel good, makes your body feel better. What do they say? Like, it takes more muscles to frown than smile. So, like, just smile. It's easier. I just think people have to have more inspiration, more hope, and more belief that we're going to get to a better place. And we have to have leaders that have the strength, determination, motivation, and patience to be like, I got you. I'm going to put you on my back and let's go.
I could not agree more. The old cheesy saying or cliche saying, what is it? Fear is all we have is fear itself.
Yeah, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself, man.
There we go. Better from your lips than mine.
Yeah.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
And the only fear I have is the fear of being ineffective. Literally, that's my only fear, man.
Project where you want to go.
Yeah.
And go after it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is awesome.
Just move forward. Even if you've got a zigzag to get there, it'll be like you're being chased by a gator. Remember, a zigzag. But just
Is that how you get away from a gator?
Jesse, you've heard that, right? They say with the shorter legs,
yeah,
like it makes it harder for them to turn. So if you're being chased by look, this is not scientific proof or no medical advice. Don't go piss a gator off and then use Vinnie's theory of zigzagging. But I've heard that for a while. So, but yeah, it's all about moving forward, and let's do this, man. November 5th, let's all go vote. Vote who you think is best, and then November 6th, that's when the work begins. Actually, November 5th at 8:00. Once we find out the winners, then let's go, man. Let's move forward. 1,461 days. That's 4 years and 1 day, because at 8:00 the day before is when the work starts. That's when I'm guessing the results will be in.
Yeah.
But Tim, get to work. Come on, man. We got to get these vote results.
Oh, Tim, yeah. Well, this is awesome. This is beyond awesome. I'm so glad we did this.
Yeah, thank you, Barry.
Yeah, dude. And we're going to do it again.
Whenever.
After you win, maybe.
Good. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's communicate. Let's talk to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more smiles. I'm all about more
all
smiles.
about
There's been
it,
a
man.
lot of smiles.
There has.
Yeah, all right. Let's do it.